Spoken
I
language.
haven't thought about flying for a long time. I haven't dreamed of that moment when I was alone above the clouds for a long time. I haven't dreamed of waking up in a room surrounded in blue and green grass for more years than I could dream of remembering. I haven't walked back into the past or scratched on the doors of my origins, where it all came from, since I hung up that cape for the last time.
Return to Cape Town 10th Year Anniversary Edition is a revised version of Ambient's first poetry book. The book can be purchased from Amazon and it contains numerous additional material.
Spoken language.
You wake up one morning after not reading a book since your school days, and you decide to be a writer, with no good or bad writing to compare against your own. You just know how to write, and anyone who tells you otherwise is wrong. Hell, maybe they're jealous of your natural ability to craft a masterpiece. After all, most people need to learn through a combination of books, courses, critical feedback and workshops. Not you, though. It's not their fault they don't realise your natural talent, but they soon will.
How to Write Wrong is the new book by Amanda Steele. The book, which is an interactive story, gives the reader multiple options throughout its story. The book can be purchased from Amazon.
Spoken
Thank
language.
you today for tuning in to Spoken Label. Spoken Label was originally set up at the beginning of 2016 and as of recording has over 200 sessions in our archive. Although the podcast can be heard on Anchor, iTunes, Apple, Spotify, YouTube and literally 10 or 11 other networks, the full archive can be found at Spoken Label, all one word, spokenlabel.bandcamp.com. On Bandcamp, it is set as pay what you want, so you are entitled, if you wish, you can download it or stream it for nothing. But if you throw me a couple of pennies my way, it is always eternally grateful to help me maintain the operating costs and future running costs of this podcast. Enjoy.
Spoken language.
Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house, back on Zoom again today. I'm across the seas to Ireland today, and we're speaking to a lady that's over in Waterford, and I didn't realise that actually she was based in Waterford until she just told me. Because I heard her come up on Modwords recently at Anna Jordan's festival, and I'm really interested to hear her music after it because she's an ambient drone artist like myself in places. And then I found out on top of it, she's got a new project going at the moment as well, which is, and we'll come on to that in a minute. But lady in question is Raych V. So Rachel, tell everybody about yourself first of all. Where you're from, and what led you on your creativity originally. We'll take it from there.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you very much, Andy, for having me. It's an absolute pleasure. I am from Waterford in Ireland, and God, in terms of where does the creativity come from? It's not so much a straightforward answer, but I suppose three things come to mind for me. I grew up playing video games.
Oh yeah.
So my cousins, twin male cousins, they introduced me to video games when, I don't know, I think I remember being like 5 or 6,
Wow.
if not like a little bit younger, like playing Jurassic Park, frightened the life out of me. But you know, as I got older, then I was playing other things and stuff like that.
When you started off something like frightened the life out of you, but then you got older, you went into the real stuff that really frightened the life out of you.
That's it, yeah. Yeah, exactly. And then I decided it was best I didn't play that for a little while. But yeah, so I grew up playing video games basically, and that was my escape from, you know, the day-to-day stuff and just escape from everything. And in that, what stood out to me a lot was, like the stories stood out to me, and I did enjoy them. But what really kind of captivated me was actually the sound. So not even just, you know, if they had like a, I don't know, a copyrighted soundtrack, whatever. But what really captivated me was, and still is, the actual ambient music, like the music that adds to the atmosphere that's actually happening in the game. And it's the same thing with movies as well. Like I remember that more so from movies or films that we watched growing up. It's the one thing that jumped out at me. It's that like there's so many scenes, whether it be video games or whether it be movies or TV shows or whatever, the scene would not be the same if you didn't have that sound in the background. So whether it be a drone, whether it be something really jarring, like, if you go for Hitchcock Psycho, like, the shower scene, stuff like that.
Well, I'm not going to swear too much in this podcast, but I will be honest with you. That scene in that film fucked me up big style.
Yeah. Mate, that was me with the birds.
Oh, the birds is no better. Oh,
oh
did
my God.
Did you ever watch the remake of Psycho? They did a scene-for-scene remake of it. That wasn't more pleasurable either.
I don't know if I did, actually. I think the first one kind of scared me enough that I was like, you know what? No, I don't want to recreate that horror in my head. I can do that all by myself.
Oh, Hitchcock's a genius. There's no two ways about it. And The Birds is like, it's a film you can watch it in the afternoon, but it's got Psycho is just terrifying. That one's got more the underlining horror really on it. So because the birds also played up because the bird didn't like it. I thought it was symbolism between that and humanity based almost. Like so we will turn against people like that. But yeah.
100%. Like, that's very reflective of. Yeah, we could go down a whole other tangent with that. That's another podcast.
We could be at 11 o'clock. Yeah, 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
I might book
World's
you in
longest
for
podcast.
I might book you in for that as well. It could be fun. Anyway, listen, that's another
movie review. Yeah. Anyway, so video games, movies, huge influence for me. Growing up, listening to a lot of different kinds of music as well. Anything from country to opera to rock to, obviously you've got your mainstream pop and all that kind of stuff, and orchestral, and just instrumental kind of stuff as well. So I was quite lucky in that, I was exposed to a lot of that stuff, and it just drew me in straight away. Like the one thing that I can vividly remember from my childhood is just music and sound. And again, like sound effects in video games, a huge thing as well that really kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, if people can hear your albums, we'll talk about in a minute, you can tell you've got an ear for sound because each one of your albums and your current new projects are all having quite vastly different sort of pieces. So that's why. So what was your first instrument you got then when you were growing up? Was there any specific instrument?
Yeah, first instrument I got was when I was 9 years old. I saved up my money and I bought myself an acoustic guitar. And I couldn't play it, man. Awful. Absolutely awful. And some of the, if you listen to some of my stuff now, like that really like abrasive sounding stuff, I mean, that's probably where that influence came from.
Oh, yeah.
Not being able to play guitar.
It's a punk mentality, as I would say, right? You don't let it stop you. Right?
I like that. Yeah, I like that. I made it work for me, So, yeah, so I played acoustic guitar for, I say I played. I had an acoustic guitar that I made sound on for a couple of years, and then saved up another bit of money and got an electric guitar. Wasn't any better at that, but I just liked making sound with it. I'll be totally honest, like I was not good at playing guitar, but I enjoy just making sound with it and all that kind of stuff, And I remember when I was I don't know, maybe I was like 7 or 8, but like I would take all the pans out of the cupboard and I would just like set them up like a drum kit when my mum was at work.
Blimey. I bet your mum could hear you when she's coming up the road basically from working, the racket you were making probably.
Probably, it's probably coming from the other side of town now just to say, is that what happened to my pants?
even that or the neighbours are reporting you to it basically.
Yeah. Surprised they didn't. But so after that then, I played guitar for about 5-6 years. Yeah, so I was 9 when I got the first one. Then I got my first bass guitar, which I got this notion in my head one day, as I do. I got this notion and I was like, I want to learn bass guitar. That's what I want to do. That just, because I love, surprise, I love low-end drone, just heavy kind of sounds, Yeah,
you do. You can definitely hear that in your sound. And I can hear the bass in it immediately in places, so.
Yeah, it's like, it's what I start off with quite often when composing and stuff like that, or writing. So yeah, I got first bass guitar at 14 then, and just taught myself like simple songs that I was into at the time. And then I went to college when I was 17. So I started college or university when I was 17, and I did a music degree because it was the only thing that I wanted to do.
You should be honest with yourself. That's all you wanted to do. In my case, I always wanted to be a writer. I did my degree in writing, but I did that bit later on. So yeah, completely. So what happened after you left university then? Did you go down the rock and roll path, did you?
Oh, a little bit. A little bit. It was funny actually. The first kind of year or two of doing my music degree, it was a 4-year course. And the first year or two, I was kind of still trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and I was doing various other bits like outside of university and working and all that kind of stuff as well. But I was still interested in music. I was still performing or like playing instruments and stuff. And I was training on jazz bass in college, but I'd still always been interested in metal, like the darker side of music, I suppose. So while I was actually in college, I would be in bands. And while I was in my I think I was halfway through my third year of college, and I decided and was invited to join a melodic black metal band.
Now,
After being in like a groove metal band before that.
what instruments were you playing at this stage in those bands? Then?
It was primarily bass,
Bass,
because I just fell in love with playing bass and all that. And I was like, bass was my performing instrument in college as well, so it was just like my everyday kind of thing, So yeah, I did have that rock and roll year with Eternal Valley, the melodic black metal band that I was with, based out of Dublin. And we got to play some really cool shows. We got to play all over the country. Like we kind of toured around a little bit. We were playing up in Northern Ireland all the way to the west, and then we opened for Behemoth in 2014.
Ooh, nice.
Which was pretty wild. It was like the most scared I had ever been going on stage, because I wasn't really afraid of going on stage. I was a little bit nervous, but with that gig, oh my god, I was like, it was a lot, but it was amazing. Like looking up and seeing a sold out main stage arena, I was like, whoa, this is insane. Like this is absolutely insane.
I think the most I've done is about 2,000 myself in an audience, and that was on my poetry gigs, and that was frightening, to put it nicely. I know what you mean there. So
yeah,
that's
it's quite unnerving.
Okay, then what led you to doing your solo stuff then, after that? Then?
So, what led me to do that actually starts a little bit before I finished college, and it happened accidentally, as do many of the interesting things in my life, and I love that. And like you say, Andy, it's the best way. So, I was going into my third year of college, and I think in the second semester, second year, it was a really rough time, and that's another kind of big influence for the music I was doing. It's just like very difficult times, or stuff was going on or whatever. Just to put it lightly, shall we say. And I was starting to kind of spend more time by myself, and I was playing around with synths that we had, and the electronic instruments in Logic Pro 9 it was at the time. And then going into my third year of university, we had to do what was it called? It was oh, that's awful. I can't remember what the module was called, but it was something like sound synthesis and technology. I think that was it. Yeah. So it's all about how to create sound, synthesize sound, and that was what had captivated me from when I was a kid. So I fell in love with that straight away, like just straight away. So we're given criteria what to do, and I was like, cool, okay, I'm gonna make something creepy because it's me. I wasn't going to make something happy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm sure you're doing an upbeat R&B number for your career as done as a musician.
Sure, look, I'll pop out an R&B album someday. I don't know.
Maybe not, right?
No, definitely not. I joke about it, but I wouldn't do that. It's just not my thing,
No, you can tell that. Me too. Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Shocking. So yeah, that's how I got into it pretty much. I did that sound synthesis module in college, and the track I did can actually be found on my very first album under the album name. I think I self-titled it. Jesus, it's a few years ago. I can't remember, but it was under the name of Misera Aeternitas. So another Latin name, which seems to be a trend with my stuff as well.
I was going to ask you about that next, because I noticed my Latin's notoriously rubbish. But I've guessed though that your 6 releases on your Bandcamp page are all Latin sort of things. So why do you decide to do it all in Latin?
I still don't quite know the answer to that one myself. I think for me, first of all, it's an old language. It's one of the oldest, most original things that humanity has, right? And it's the dead language as well, which is sad because it's incredible. With it being like one of the oldest, or the oldest language in the world, it's I don't like the idea of it dying out, because I suppose with the Irish language, it's not spoken in all of Ireland. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
kind
of
of
course.
resonate with that a little bit because I'm like, well, this is our first language, but we're not speaking it, and the language is kind of it's dying off with generations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of
Um,
course.
so I think it's those kind of things, and I love Latin because it adds that air of mystery, and it's got this kind of sense of notoriety or something behind it. I don't know. I just love Latin.
No, no, that's fair play. No, fair play. It is like it's because I'm going to have to let you pronounce the names of these albums to me because I've got no chance of pronouncing them. I can say that straight away. But if I know your first album came out in 2016, and this one itself is quite different to what you did later on. Now, is it? Oh, yeah, good grief. Now I'll let you pronounce that one, okay? But I know you did a lot of them. You did a lot of them. You did all the music. You did the lyrics in this album as well, which obviously didn't happen with
Yep.
your later material. So, what made you want to do lyrics for your album?
For the newer album
No, for the first
or the
album
newer
back
ones.
in 2016. Sorry, I can't pronounce it. Is it Abyss? Oh my good grief! Abyss and Avact
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
Abyss, Abyss Abyssum Invocat.
That's it. See, not considering someone's Latin's garbage. That's not bad for me. That. Yeah. Tell us about that
Not bad,
album.
not bad.
Okay, tell us about that album.
Yeah, okay, I suppose. Yeah, with that one, like I done the first album, and it kind of, it picked at little ideas that I had. I didn't have a certain idea in mind with the first album, so when it came on to Abyssus, Abyssum Invocat, I nearly tripped over it myself there. That was like the first proper release under the name of Raych V, because I was like, well, no, I'll title it with my own name, or I'll put it out there with my own name, obviously augmented slightly because I don't want my full name just out there, you know.
Yeah, of course.
So I suppose I loved the drone, the electronic side of things, that really kind of dark, gritty. Just I love building with sound, but what can be quite jarring is the human voice as well. So now in in this release, obviously I didn't use like really jarring sound effects on the voice, apart from I think it's the seventh track, Facilis Descensus Averno, which is some text reversed and just really kind of. I did a lot of production on that, a lot of production kind of manipulation on that to make it weird. But to answer your question, what made me decide to go with lyrics? I had ideas, basically. For the first track, Cogito Ergo Sum, which is Latin for I think therefore I am. With that one, like I'd known that phrase for years. Obviously, it's a very popular phrase. And I just had these ideas in my head. It's like, well, if I think therefore I am, that can be taken up in any kind of context, right? So I can think, well, if I think I'm a bad person, I am a bad person. It's that kind of thing, and that's a lot of the words in it kind of resonate with that kind of thing. They're not happy, obviously. Shocking, I know. If you listen to my material, it's not too much. That sounds really, happy, shall we say?
Oh,
But
I think it's
that's what
very
made
happy
me decide to
going.
go
Happy go
for it.
lucky books. Yeah, but
It
not.
depends on your mood, yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Seriously, yeah. No, like I said it's
Mm.
no, it's a different approach when you put lyrics into things like that. Then your material off after that until the current release is much more instrumental based. So, did
Mm.
you find was that an accident when you moved on from one thing to the next, or was that planned all along?
It was accidental. The transitions between the albums and the differences between them were entirely accidental. you know,
Yeah, yeah, of
with that
course.
album that we were just talking about, there was one track that I knew what I wanted to do with it, and the rest came as I went along. The third track on that, In Fairness, which I think is my all-time favorite, which I worked on with a very good friend of mine, and in fact, huge inspiration for me, and if not the reason I got into actually producing music. I had Mick Shanahan, also known as Mixile. I had him read a piece for that, a piece that he had written, and he shared that with me. And I shared the idea. Well, I'd like to, here's some sound ideas and musical ideas that I have. Do you want to do something? And he's like, yeah, let's do it. And that's where that track kind of came from. So that just came through discussion and kind of sharing ideas and all that kind of stuff. And I suppose with the albums after that, yeah, like the progression, if you will, was all accidental. It was just right. This is, I suppose, for me, when I was or am writing tracks, it's inspired by how I'm either feeling or how I'm thinking. And that's why it's hard to keep putting these albums out consistently, because they are very draining, you know.
Completely. Get it completely without as a writer and a musician myself. It's,
Yeah.
I think the level of thought and emotions coming to you, and you can feel it a mile off. It's like it's not the sort of thing you can knock out in a couple of weeks and then mug another one out 2 months later. It's not that sort of work. You sit a mile off. So I think it's that sort of piece when you album you've done them. You probably need time just to deep process in your head. Actually, it straight away with that one.
Oh, yeah.
So obviously now, we're going to talk about your new project really. So now, which of course is Summoners of the Soil, with your project you've done with Michael O'Brien. Now, I've heard from another podcast, obviously you two have known each other for a few years, really, haven't you?
Yeah. We know each other about, oh God, when did we first meet? I'm pretty sure it was 2016. And I believe I said this on the podcast with Anna Jordan as well. I couldn't remember the exact time.
Yeah,
I know
that's
that
what you
Michael
said.
was telling me
Yeah, you said
afterwards.
that. That's where I got it from. That. So, see, sophisticated journalism on my side, right?
Yeah. Sophisticated and consistent. Love it. But yeah. We've known each other, the few years, and it started off when that was either the first year I was doing the sound engineering for the Sonic Dreams Festival, or I was co-director at that stage. I can't remember exactly. But I was doing the sound for Michael anyway, and he was doing these really harsh, vocalized, intense, just like tear down the walls and like rip your throat with how much intensity he was putting into it. I fell in love with that.
Understand? Oh, I can see why. You two are a perfect match at creativity.
Yeah.
Straight away. Well, I've been playing the EP a bit last week, so obviously get preparation for tonight, and it's harrowing is a good word I think I'd use for it.
Oh, excellent. Music to my ears, Andy.
Now, okay, obviously, where did the name Summoners of the Soil come from? Because that's intense, and it's certainly good thing is always saying you do a band, do a name that people can find you easy on the internet. I'm sure if you put that in Google, will bring up your project immediately.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, because I actually did that when we did decide to come. When we did decide on the name, I was like, let me just Google that just in case. And I didn't get much results on it, but funny enough, the name was actually one of the last things to happen. Where you'd done all the music, all the sound, all the vocalizations, they were all done first. Then the artwork came, then the photography came, then the video came, and then we decided on the name.
that video is an experience, Phil. What I'll literally watch that this morning. Obviously, because people won't know it. I've had one of those days today where technology's been breaking on me, but in between one thing breaking and another breaking, I watched the video that obviously was shot, and that was an intense video, that's for sure, with it. So, wow.
Well, I'm glad. I'll tell you more about that video in a sec. I'll answer your first question. I'm awful for going off on tangents.
No,
but we're in the same boat there then. The name, essentially, Michael and I had ideas of what we wanted. So, first of all, we wanted it to be something derived from like the spirit world, not in a ghost kind of way, but like this. Oh my God, it's gonna sound preachy, but like there's just the spirit within yourself, like who you are as a person. And we wanted it to be kind of a collaboration between that and nature, because like we come from nature. Everything we have comes from nature. Not everything we make, that doesn't, but everything that we are made of comes from that, and our history and our ancestry and our countries especially, they all come from the earth, so it was that kind of thing, and we had tossed ideas back and forth, and the name is actually a combination of an idea that we each had. I can't remember what the ideas actually were, but I remember like it was something of like, something to do with the soil, and then something about summoning, and I was like, well, how about this? Like, what do you think? And we just agreed on it. Michael was like, yep, that's perfect. That suits it brilliantly. And it was a combination of what we both wanted. So it just fit perfectly, The video side of things then, we weren't originally going to do, our intention was to do a 3 or 4 track EP. And we would have had it out sooner. I suppose I was kind of delayed in that. Again, it is quite exhausting. Like, it's mentally draining doing that kind of thing. I love it. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love it. So I'll try to put as much as I can into it, as much of myself into it, which is, I suppose, where the exhaustion comes from, as you'll understand. But then I just had this notion one day, again with my notions, and I was like, I want to do a video for this. Mike was like, okay, we can do that. Now, obviously, with the restrictions, I couldn't travel to Dungarvan where he is. It's like I think it's no more than an hour on the bus, probably 40 minutes on the bus from where I am. But with the restrictions, we just couldn't do it. So I had this idea, and I said to Michael, right, how would you feel about going out, recording yourself walking and doing all these things by yourself? Mike was like, yeah, that's grand, I'll do it. He was right on board, which is brilliant.
Okay. Nice up bloke.
I loved it. Yeah,
Straight for the jugular,
he's
no
always a
problem.
proper chef. yeah. That's it, a very commanding way. But I told him, look, this is the vibe I'm going for. I want, side shots, walking towards the camera, walking away from the camera. Just basically gave him a brief of what I wanted. I was like, a few ideas, obviously throw them in there as well. And so he came back to me then a few days later, and he said, here's all the material I have. He sent me over loads of video, and me being me, decided I was going to put together, I can't really call it a music video, can I?
No, I think I'd call it a 3-minute horror piece, personally. Of a bloke losing his mind.
Pretty much, which essentially is what it is, yeah. So I decided to put together a visual horror piece. And I hadn't actually edited video before. Sound is my thing. Like I'd, recorded, edited, all that kind of stuff with sound. That was my bread and butter for a while. Like I was doing, sound design and sound engineering at theatres and all this kind of stuff in loads of places. And then because I had that notion that day, I was like, well, no, I'm going to teach myself how to do this. And I had the video done in not a huge amount of time. I think I signed off on it a few days after I had started it, because I was like, I don't want to do too much more. But I think this gives the right effect, and I showed it to Michael, and obviously I showed it to him first and a couple of other people, and they were like, this is so creepy and so eerie. I was like, thank you.
I think if you'd carried on putting much more into it, you probably would have lost your mind yourself, honest, your age with that.
Yeah, I probably would have. Absolutely.
So brilliant. Now, okay, so is there any plans you've got going forward into the Summers of the Soil? Can you see there been another release for it in the future?
I do. Yeah. I definitely think this is the project just getting started, Michael is a fantastic writer, and his work is so harrowing, and it can be quite raw, and it can be quite brutal almost, and I absolutely love that. So there's plenty of material there for us to work with, and it's something that he's interested in as well. Like, he loves my sound and my aesthetic, if you will, and just how I work, and he just enjoys, I suppose, what I do. I enjoy what he does, and so we do have plans moving forward to do another release. I don't know when that will be, or what shape or format that will be in, but it is definitely on the cards, because I want to do a lot more, or a few more videos, almost like, could they be a transgression, or like a progression even from that first video, and kind of through times and spaces. And I have these ideas, I have notions.
I like that word of you, notions, and notions usually turn into full-length plans then, basically, so.
Yeah.
No, best way to be, definitely. Now, obviously, I'm not going to push you too much into what you've got plans you've got for the future, but I'm just interested in knowing, obviously, the last thing to conclude today was, obviously, I know you've obviously done a lot, you've been doing work as well, haven't you, with bands and theatre and film. So tell us a bit more about that, because that's obviously more like side projects from the past, I'm guessing, at the moment. What have you done in the past and out of interest?
I suppose in the past, what I've done, well, of course, there was my solo work, which we did talk about previously, which I do have some plans for that moving forward as well.
I wasn't sure. That's
slightly
why,
different again from what I have done.
That's what I wasn't sure then, because obviously, like, I tend to find sometimes some acts, and I'm not sure if you're one of them or not. You've done a couple of albums. I noticed there was a bit of a gap, obviously, from the last album. Then you've done with Michael. I wasn't sure that was your focus now. But it makes sense, certainly. So.
Yeah, well, I suppose the plans that I have for my solo work going forward are going to be different from what Michael and I are doing. So I've got a couple of album ideas in mind. One of them is half done. I should really finish that at some stage. So
You'll get there when you get there.
Exactly, yeah. When I get a notion to do it, my favorite word of the day. I suppose, yeah. So I was doing that in my past. I did just suppose freelance sound design for metal gigs and pub gigs and all that kind of stuff. I did work on short films, a couple of short films, where I was doing the field recording, like the location recording, um, the composition for it, like the musical composition, I believe. Yeah, musical composition, and just basically all of the sound and all the sound production and mastering and all that kind of crack as well. Really loved that. And then I did a lot of work in theatre as well. Again, the sound engineering and the sound design, and then actually being sound tech sometimes for operating the shows um and stuff like that as well. And yeah, so I think that's primarily I would. You did mention it. I worked with bands as well. I
Oh,
forget all these things.
oh, you're like me. You got short-term memory loss, right? I've got mine's age. Yours is probably down to vodka or something like that.
I think mine is listening to that kind of music too much.
Probably, yeah. I
Yeah,
know.
just mentally draining myself.
I know when I was your age, I listening to pretty heavy stuff. I was so, and I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I'll tell you about it off mic, and I think I've mellowed out more nowadays. But like I said, yeah, I do agree with you. So I think there's a debate about the noise that like just your head sometimes, particularly if you're
Yeah.
creating it. So
Yeah, it's a bit of a funny one, I think. I am sometimes it helps me concentrate, sometimes I'm just angry. I want to listen to something angry, or I'll be in a tranquil mood where I'll be like, yeah, let's listen to something upbeat and kind of uplifting, and then people look at me and I really don't look like I listen to upbeat music. Just wearing like all black and grey and like with the tattoos and stuff, and yeah, it makes people question me.
I know I surprise people sometimes frequently. I listen to, and when I go all
Yeah.
over the place music-wise, I really do. So, and it is dark metal, doom metal. When I listen to classical. I've got some
Yes.
hip hop actually. I've got classical, all kinds of things I have. So best way to be. So
It's all
variety,
coming out now.
variety is the spice of life, as I say, don't you? So
True.
now
Yes.
that is all my questions, Rachel. So obviously, people are wondering where to find out more about you. Obviously, they're best going onto your Bandcamp page, aren't they? First of all,
Mm. Yeah,
and
that's where the majority of my music is.
we've also got your page of Summoners of the Soil as well, and Bandcamp as well. Now, is there any other pages people should be looking at for you to read up more on you like you as well?
I suppose the Bandcamps would be the primary places. There is a Facebook page for my own sound, and work. There is a Facebook page for Summoners of the Soil as well. What else do we have? YouTube pages for both as well. I must actually upload more into that, but anyway, I'll add it to my list of things.
Yeah,
But
one of your
those
many
would be
jobs
the
to do.
primary places. Yeah, that's it. That's it. Never a day off, as they say. But yeah, so it's primarily those kind of places. Like you can for the Summers and Soil side of things, you can reach myself and Michael through that Facebook page or directly through the Bandcamp itself, and the same thing for my solo stuff as well. The Facebook page and the Facebook as well. And the Bandcamp as well. I mean.
Yeah, of course, no, straight away. So perfect. That's answered all the questions today, Rachel. Really, I just want to find out before we conclude very quickly. So obviously, I know you obviously would talk about soundtracks at the beginning of the thing. Do you have a favourite soundtrack? Personal favourite soundtrack? Do you as a film?
Do I have a?
We were talking about obviously Psycho and The Birds before, and that is such a sound-based film. Both of them are really. Is the one that you always say sticks in your head in the films?
With films? Funnily enough, not with films. More so
Yeah.
video games.
Oh right, tell us that then. That'd be
And
interesting.
the two, yeah, the two in particular. The first one that really stuck out to me, and I played the game when I was quite young. The game came out in '93 or '94. It's Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah.
They should have stopped making them after that, in my opinion. But anyway, debatable. But that Japanese composer, if I remember correctly, Nobuo Uematsu, the soundtrack for that just blew my mind. Little 6-year-old me thought this was a gift from whatever deities are out there. Absolutely incredible. It had that upbeat stuff. It had that really like dark, depressing kind of stuff, and that stuff that would just knock you off your feet, the powerful, the encouraging, just everything. It covered it all, and it was absolutely and is absolutely one of my favourite soundtracks to this day.
That's
The
understandable.
second one then.
Yes, what's the second one then?
The second one is it is composed by Gary Scheinman for the BioShock franchise or the BioShock series of games.
Cool.
I can't remember when did that first one. Go ahead, sorry.
I don't know that series. I know Final Fantasy. I played that growing up myself. I don't know the one. So tell us about that series. Then.
So BioShock came out the first game was released in 2007, and I love the soundtrack from BioShock and BioShock 2, because again they are so like dark and dreary and just unsettling, and he uses a lot of. There's a trend here I've noticed.
Yeah,
but there's.
I think I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all making sense now, isn't it? But he uses a lot of strings, and like the really abrasive strings, and also gorgeous, velvety, luscious strings that just, oh my god, they're fantastic. A lot of piano as well and stuff like that, which I for my own stuff, I would start composing things on piano. I forgot to mention that earlier. Yeah, I just play piano as well.
Is it the hit and hope?
That's something that
with your piano, is it hit and hope, or are you a bit more organised on piano?
It started off as hit and hope. Got a bit more organised. Now, don't ask me to play Beethoven or anything like that. It's not happening unless you wanted very slowly, one note per day.
So it's not a notion. It's actually properly played on piano, then, basically.
Yeah. I taught myself the basic chords and all that, and was able to kind of work between things. And I suppose the things I can play are my own works, which is fine. Yeah. But that's that. So again, that was a big influence there as well. And that BioShock series, I suppose, to kind of, how would I sum it up? Just to give a bit of context, it's this world that was built underwater called Rapture, basically, where I suppose like the socialites or like the higher end people, they all went there because they wanted to be superior, blah blah blah. They came up with these things called plasmids, where you inject them into yourself to make yourself like a superior human being. But it's like any horror game, creepy horror, weird game. Things go wrong, and they just go mad. They go absolutely wild, and it's just crazy. It's like a wild fever dream, and and yeah, it's great. I love it. So again, huge sound design from that game and from Final Fantasy had a huge influence on me as well.
Cool. I know that's all my questions, Rachel. Anyway, so what we'll do is we'll conclude here, but hang around. So I need to put you off mic. It's been fascinating today. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. It's always good to hear someone talk about how the music's developed over time, really. And I've definitely got a good feel for your music now. They always say music is like me, is your personality turned up by 11, and I read that somewhere as well. And I think I could definitely see your personality turned up. Music's been turned up by 11, and that definitely implies itself. Fantastic, thank you. So take care, guys and girls. Thank you. Yeah, it's been a pleasure, Rachel. Take care, guys and girls. See you all soon.
Spoken, mate.